Right. Yeah, so today we wanted to talk about selectivity, herbicide selectivity. What is herbicide selectivity? It's the ability of the herbicide to kill some plants, generally weeds, leaving other plants, that is crops, unharmed. So you have this chemical which can kill other plants and it leaves other plants unharmed. Now, plant response to herbicide application. If you apply a herbicide to the plant, if it is susceptible, we say there's a positive response or plant damage. The other response is the tolerance, where you have a negative response. In this case, there's no plant damage. We expect this to happen to a crop. However, if herbicide dosage is increased, there could be loss of this tolerance. Then there's an extreme case where we have resistance. This is also a negative response. There's no plant damage at any herbicide dose. Sometimes this can happen when we are using one herbicide every season. Now we have Roundup ready maize and soybeans, where scientists have actually modified these crops. They are genetically modified crops. And you can spray glyphosate to these crops without harming them. We know Roundup or glyphosate is non-selective. It can kill everything. So if we make maize and soybean resistant to glyphosate, we can kill most of the weeds. We also have Mabasa-resistant maize, IR maize, where we control striga using the herbicide. This is not a genetically modified crop. This slide is showing a crop which was sprayed with the Roundup. This is genetically modified soybean. You can easily kill other weeds leaving soybean. Another GMO maize, where you can just kill other weeds leaving maize. We have MCPA selectivity, which can selectively kill soybeans. Kill soybeans and weeds leaving maize. So on this slide, you can see that the soybean was damaged by MCPA, but maize survived. This is also another form of selectivity. Now we have got the herbicide which is applied to the plant via the nozzle. Now the chemical can go directly through the leaves, or it can go via the roots. So herbicide effects, the herbicides can enter the plants via the leaves or the roots. So you've got herbicides which can penetrate the plant barriers, that is the cuticle. Herbicides can move via the phloem and the xylem vessels in order to get to the site of action. Now, there are two approaches to herbicide selectivity. The first approach is when we explain or account herbicide selectivity through non-physiological processes. Then the second one, we can account selectivity through physiological processes. So today, what we are going to focus on is number one, the non-physiological processes. So let us talk about non-physiological processes which are important in herbicide selectivity. The first we are going to talk about is plant spray interception characteristics. If you are spraying the plants with a herbicide, the herbicide may remain attached on the plants. In some plants, the herbicide may move away from the plant. And it is herbicide retention or lack of herbicide retention which results in a herbicide selectivity. So let us look at the surface of a leaf. If we spray the droplets, now the point of contact with the leaf surface is very small. So we've got a small surface area. And these droplets can easily roll off the plant surfaces. But if we use a surfactant, we can modify the area of contact by increasing the surface area so that we have a large surface area be in touch with the leaf. So surfactants can be used to increase herbicide efficacy, but we'll talk about that one later on. Otherwise, most droplets can roll off the leaves. So we want to look at the two examples. Coniza arubida, which is on the left, and Datura stramonium on the right. If you were spraying these weeds with the herbicide, We want to see which plant is going to trap a lot of herbicides. On the right, just check those broad leaves of Datura stramonia. And on the left, we have hairy leaves, which are almost perpendicular to the stem of Coniza arbida. So leaf orientation and size is important. Upright leaves versus horizontal leaves. Datura stramonia is likely to trap more herbicide droplets than Coniza arbida. Remember, Datura has got broad leaves, and Coniza arbida has got narrow leaves, which are almost perpendicular. So if you spray the herbicide on Coniza arbida, they will fall off the plant. Here we've got an example of Oxalis latifolia, which is left, and Ageratum conzoides, which is on our right. Please look at the Oxalis latifolia leaves, which are almost smooth, and those of Ageratum conzoides on the right are rough with some hairs. It is likely that the smooth surface of Oxalis latifolia is likely to trap less herbicide droplets compared to the rough surfaces of Ageratum conzoides. The presence of leaf hairs on Ageratum conzoides could prevent herbicide droplets to be in contact with the plant surfaces. So you could have droplets which are just hanging in the air, and they could easily evaporate without even entering the plant, and the Ageratum conzoides could survive. We have Elusini indica on the left with leaves which are almost again perpendicular to the stem. And we have got Ricardia scabra on the right with broad leaves. So Elusini indica is likely to trap less herbicide droplets compared to Ricardia scabra. On Elusini indica, the droplets are likely just to fall off that plant. Whereas on Ricardia scabra, the leaves will actually trap herbicide droplets. Actually, this is the basis of bacterial or bromoxynil selectivity in wheat, where broad-leaved weeds will trap more of the herbicide droplets compared to wheat. Of course, this results in the death of weeds leaving the wheat. We are through with the leaf orientation and the size and the features on the leaf surface. Now we're moving on to plant age. Can be a factor in selectivity. Here I've got two I have got the same weed left and right, but I've got on the left, it's a young Elusini indica, and on the right, it's old leucine indica. Now, what happens is that the young leucine indica has got thin cuticle. The old leucine indica has got a very thick cuticle. So the young leucine indica can allow passage of the herbicide, whereas the old leucine indica can prevent the passage of the herbicide. So young weeds are more susceptible to herbicides than mature weeds. Now, when we apply post-emergence herbicides, normally it is recommended that we should target young weeds for these post-emergence herbicides. If you come a bit late, even if the herbicide is recommended for usage in that crop, it may fail to kill weeds simply because it has been applied a bit late. Apart from planting age determining selectivity, we have what are known as the growing points. Now, the growing points are the areas with the meristematic cells, which cause a plant to grow. Now, with the grasses, they have hidden growing points, and the herbicides are not accessible to these growing points, as opposed to broad-leaved weeds, which have exposed growing points that are accessible to herbicides. So the growing points can bring about selectivity. I think this can happen to wheat and the wild oats, where in wheat the growing points are not accessible as opposed to wild oats. Farmers can also use some application techniques which can bring about selectivity. For example, when you are spraying, you can protect your crops by using shields. So your nozzle will be covered by a shield so that you avoid the herbicide being in contact with the crop. This is illustrated by that diagram, which is showing the shield, the nozzle, position of the weeds, and the crop. Normally, this works well when we have a crop which is taller than the weeds. Some experienced farmers can use directed nozzles without shields, but this is a bit risky because you are likely to touch your crop with the herbicide. But nevertheless, some farmers still do it. This is a tractor-mounted boom sprayer with the nozzles which are fitted with the shields. Probably you can see these shields which are protecting the crop from herbicide droplets. So directed sprays are ideal when the crop is taller than the weed. You use shields to physically prevent the herbicide to be in contact with the crop. Examples of herbicides which can be used, like, for example, gramoxone. We know it can kill cotton, maize, and sugarcane, but we can still use it provided you have got shields to protect the crop. You can also use ametrine and glyphosate provided you are using the shields. We can also use what are known as weed wipers. Now, a weed wiper is just a pipe with a T-shaped at the end, and inside that pipe you have got a piece of cloth or a wick. Now, the herbicide will travel through the pipe, then it follows this piece of cloth or a string or a rope. Now you can simply rub the herbicide on the weeds, or you are just wiping the herbicides on the weed. You can do this in various crops. So glyphosate is simply brushed against the weeds, and this is ideal for conservation farming or conservation agriculture. So directed sprays, weed wipers. Now we move on to formulation. Now there are some herbicides which are designed to be selective through formulation. So we have got propanil, which is applied as a granule in rice in Asia. Now, the property of granules is that if you apply them to a plant, they can roll off. Now, this can roll off your I'm teaching. Yeah. So the granules can roll off. Sorry about the disturbance. They can roll off the rice plants and fall to the ground, where they become activated and kill weeds. So you simply broadcast the granules on your plants. The rice is not affected, but as soon as the granules hit the ground, they dissolve and start killing weeds. Another situation is where we have a herbicide, where we have the herbicide, which when applied just sit on the soil surface because of its low solubility in water. This can give what is known as positional selectivity or depth protection. Now, what happens is that within the 2-centimeter depth of soil, we have weed seeds. And we plant our crop at probably 6 centimeters or 5 centimeters. Now, when we apply the pre-emergence herbicide, it is going to affect the first 2 centimeters where the weeds are resident. And the herbicide will now kill the weeds. In the depth where we plant our crop, there won't be a herbicide. So a crop like soybean can actually survive. One of the herbicides which is used in soybean is known as metribuzin, and its selectivity is brought about by depth protection because metribuzin is not very soluble in water. So when we spray it, it can only travel up to 2 centimeters and never go beyond that, where the soybean will be placed. Soybean seed will be placed. So the weeds can be killed by metribuzin, leaving soybean. So soybean and maize are planted at 6 centimeters of soil depth, and most weed seeds are in the 1 to 2 centimeters of soil depth. So Sengo or metribuzin will be distributed in the 1 to 2 centimeter zone after application in soybeans. This can also semi-apply to stomp or pendimethalin in maize. This is how selectivity can be achieved in these 2 herbicides. Please note that the herbicides suitable for depth protection have low water solubilities. They cannot easily be dissolved in water. However, if we have heavy rainfall after application of, let's say, metribuzin, there's a likelihood of leaching the herbicide to the soybean root zone, and the crop may be damaged. And indeed, this has sometimes happened in this country. Timing of herbicide applications can also bring about selectivity. We have 3 examples. With MCPA, there's a stage of the wheat where you can come in and spray MCPA. It is recommended that MCPA should be targeted at the 3 leaf stage of wheat. Any later applications can cause phytotoxicity to wheat. This is actually observed as distortions of flower heads, but sometimes this may not affect grain yields. Then we have got a later application of Basagran can also damage soybean. Basagran is used to control weeds in soybean, and it should be targeted also at the 3-trifoliate stage of soybean. If you apply it later than this stage, then soybean may be damaged. Now, as for glyphosate, we can use it post-maize harvest, after harvesting maize, to kill probably cyanodon, or we can bring it forward You apply it first before planting maize to avoid damage to your crop. So timing of herbicide applications can be used to ensure selectivity. So I just want to summarize the non-physiological processes which can bring about selectivity. So far, we have looked at the number one, spray interception characteristics. Plant spray interception characteristics. Here we look at the leaf orientation, nature of plant surface. Is it smooth versus rough? Are you having upright or horizontal leaves? Do you have presence of hairs? Do you have grasses versus broad-leaved weeds? All these characteristics can determine whether a plant is going to die or survive. Number two, plant age. We have said that young plants can be damaged by the herbicide compared to old plants. And so plant age can bring about selectivity. Then another thing which is important is the position of growing points. If you have exposed growing points like those in the broad-leaved plants, they can easily be accessed by herbicides. Therefore, such plants can die. Whereas in grasses, where growing points are hidden, herbicide accessibility is almost impossible. And therefore, those plants will survive herbicide sprays. Then we talked of the application techniques, use of directed sprays. This is where we actually use the shields to protect our crops from herbicide damage. In the case of glyphosate, you can use what is known as the weed wiper, which is simply a pipe which transfers concentrated glyphosate via a piece of cloth or a rope or a wick, which is brushed against the weeds. Then there's formulation, where we have granulated herbicides, which look like fertilizer actually, which have to be broadcasted to rice. These granules won't stay on the rice plants, but they will fall to the ground, where they will release the herbicide which will start to kill weeds. Apparently, such herbicides cannot be taken via the roots of the rice. Then we talked about positional selectivity or depth protection, where we use herbicides with low water solubility. For example, metribuzin or stomp, that is pendimethalin. These herbicides simply sit within the 1 centimeter to 2 centimeter zone, where we have weed seeds. And because of the differences in depth of where the plant is coming from and where the seeds are coming from, we can impart herbicide selectivity. Then, of course, we talked about the timing of herbicide applications in relationship to the growth stage. MCPA is targeted at the 3-leaf stage, Basagran 3-trifoliate stage. Then if you want to put glyphosate, it's either you put it towards the end of the maize season or towards the beginning. So these are some of the issues which can account for non-physiological selectivity. Here I've got a question. Give a detailed account of different mechanisms of herbicide selectivity using relevant examples. With what we have done, we could partially answer this question. But in order to answer this question, we also need another lecture on physiological basis of selectivity. So this is it for the non-physiological basis of selectivity. So let me stop sharing. Hello?
Oh, Doc.
Were the slides changing?
Yeah, we could have complained.
Okay. So what we have covered now is the non-physiological basis of herbicide selectivity. I have already sent a PDF to this effect.
On WhatsApp?
On WhatsApp.
Yeah, received.
So you can go through it as well.
Okay.
So what I wanted to talk with you is, can we have a lecture tomorrow?
Yeah, we can.
What time?
Wimpe wants to say something.
Anytime after lunch, I think.
Can we start at 9?
Oh, in the morning, Doc.
9
is still early.
Sorry, Doc. 9 tingitishitumhanyisa dzimwe.
All right.
Maybe must cut 2 or 3.
Okay, let us say 2.
Okay.
Okay.
2, maybe 2 to 3 or 2 to 4.
Okay.
Probably an hour, 2 to 3.
It's okay.
Because 1 hour, I think it's all right.
All right.
So with this one, we are through for today. You go and look at it. Check the PDF. I'll also send you you will have access to the recorded lecture as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we'll meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Okay, have a good day.
Thanks very much.
Goodbye.
Bye.